I'm Blake.
I'm Rob.
On today's episode, learn about why we started the show
And what is with the name?
and our first 1,000 miles of ownership.
So, Blake, why did we start the show?
Well, we're not journalists or industry insiders. We're just two guys who love technology, love EVs, and wanted a place to talk about what ownership is actually like. Our love of technology started with our early obsession with getting the iPhone on launch day.
Yeah, remember we used to leave work together and drive to Pittsburgh and get in line, stay up all night, talk to other Apple enthusiasts.
As
And
waiting in line, and are they gonna have enough iPhones? And I mean, I remember there was a time where I didn't have an iPhone and you had an
yeah,
iPhone, and you're like, "Blake, you gotta get an iPhone." I was like, "I don't know." I had the
yep,
flip phone back then, and
yep.
so for me, this is kinda like that iPhone moment. Rob is like, "Blake, Tesla, self-driving, you gotta get
You
and
got to at least go
yeah,
drive one, right?
drive one," and I did the test drive, and so that's kind of what brought us
Um,
to here together.
I was telling you the other day when we one of our iPhone stops that morning, you had already left to come to work, and saw my first Tesla. It was probably back about 10 years ago, one of the early models. Someone had one in Pittsburgh and was showing it off. I was like, this is a pretty cool car. Little did I know, 10 years later, I'd own one. So
So, what's in with the name EV Misfits, Rob? How did we come up with that?
yeah, we bounced a bunch of ideas around when we were coming up with the name, but going back to that love of anything Apple, I think if Tim Cook would put an Apple logo on a bag, we'd go buy it. And so, we thought back to some of Apple's best moments over the years. And, anytime you really think of Apple's history, you think of the comeback, Steve Jobs coming back to Apple in 1990s. And then the commercial in 97 with the whole Think Different campaign. And he had the commercial called The Crazy Ones. And the part of that everyone remembers says, here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, and the troublemakers. So we decided to take the misfits out of that and call our show the EV Misfits, because I think as we learn how to own an EV and the trials and tribulations and sharing that with others, just thought it was a fitting name. So that's what we named it, and I'm excited about it. And it goes back to the passion of all things Apple.
How did you get started with EVs, Rob?
Well, I've wanted an EV for a few years now, but I was in Honda lease, and Honda's really only allow Honda dealers to buy out leases. So you can't sell a Honda lease to a Carvana or a CarMax or anything like that. And so I started looking around at the Honda Prologue and saw that a local dealer had one on their lots in September, and this was May of last year. And so I was like, "Oh, if it sat on the lot for that many months, I bet you I could get a good deal." And so I called the sales rep that I've worked with in the past and said, "What kind of deal can you give me on that Prologue?" And he gave me a deal that I couldn't really refuse. And so I bought the Honda Prologue. Didn't do a ton of research ahead of time, but I bought that Prologue, and that was my first EV.
You weren't scared about not having a gas car?
Not really. I mean, I live in Columbus, so there's a decent amount of charging. There's a lot of EVs around. I really wanted to buy a Tesla at the time, but that the whole lease piece. So fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, back in March, I was rear-ended and
Uh,
a RAV4 hit my rear driver's side quarter panel and tire and ended up doing about $28,000 worth of damage to the vehicle. And the Honda Prologues have decreased in value tremendously. And so it was totaled out. And at that point, I was like, oh, it's time for me to get the Tesla. So, whether it was a blessing or, kind of a headache, the car getting hit definitely allowed me to pick up the Tesla.
that you're doing well after that accident
Yep,
and
yep,
everything.
everything's going
That's
well.
good. And so now you've had the Prologue, and now you've had the Tesla for a few months now. So what's been your biggest surprise with being an EV owner?
Really, I think the biggest surprise has just been the ease of use,
Mm.
the adaptation, how much you love one pedal driving, the regenerative braking. I think those would probably be my biggest surprises. It's very intuitive. Uh,
Were you scared with the self-driving or anything? Is that
Um, I was really surprised how well it worked.
okay?
I test drove the Tesla, and they sell you on the full self driving FSD, and the guy ran around and showed me how to work it, and I had it drive me to work, and I actually FaceTimed my mom during the thing to show her that the car was driving itself, and I was impressed. And what impressed me about it was going downtown in Columbus, and someone started crossing the street, and the car saw the person step into the street and stopped for that individual to cross the street. So I'm like, I wouldn't have stopped there because she wasn't really crossing at the time. They had just stepped into the street, but the Tesla recognized that they stepped off the curb and could be crossing, so the car stopped. And I think I called you shortly after that, Blake, and told you what about that experience that it was I didn't think it was that good. So I think that was a real big surprise as well.
I think back to that question, what will the Tesla or what will the self-driving, these automations do in those times of emergency? And I think we've been experiencing that and sharing stories back and forth. So hopefully we'll be able to share a little bit more later as we continue our EV journey here.
Yeah, and
How
hopefully
about,
be able to
yeah,
share some videos, right? Like we're capturing some of
sure.
this FSD videos and hopefully be able to share some of those on future episodes as well.
Uh, any frustrations? I mean, it's not always sunshine and rainbows, right?
It's not, and
Being EV
you know,
owner.
I think no matter what kind of car you have, whether you have a hybrid, you have a traditional gas vehicle, or an EV, you're always going to be frustrated about something. And for me, really, a lot of my frustrations came with the lack of research I did for the prologue. I love the size, I love the car, I love being able to enter the EV space with it. But the software piece of it was just absolutely horrible. I felt like the software was something from the 90s. The whole time I had the car for 10 months, I didn't receive one over the air update to the software. Everything seemed very old, just felt dated. There were software updates that came out. Actually, my accident occurred on a Friday, and the appointment to get the software update was on the following Wednesday. So I never got to get it to experience it. Doing some of those blogs and that with the prologue, and people seemed to enjoy the update. But again, you had to make an appointment with the dealer. You had to take it in there. They had to keep it all day to do the software update. Whereas with the current car, the Tesla,
Yeah.
I mean, I've had it 3 months. I've already received 3 updates, and it just happens over there. And now it's automatic, so it just you park your car in your garage, connect it to the Wi-Fi, and it just downloads overnight. And you come in and you have the new features on your vehicle. So it's pretty cool. I think that would be my biggest frustration was just that software piece.
I mean,
So Blake, how about you? What did
yeah.
you get started with EVs?
I mean, I've been a Prius owner for a long time, using what would you say, the regenerative braking, and I really like the Prius, the way they drive. It's been over the years, and so that kind of kept me going. And then I got the Prius Prime, so you can charge that up, and we go like 30, well, 25. Maybe the current ones these days get like 30. Oh, like it's like one charge. It's enough charge to get you to work and back.
That's a plug-in
Just the
hybrid,
work.
right? For
So
those
yeah,
that may not
Prius
know.
Prime, yeah, it's a plug-in hybrid. So you get about 60 miles to the gallon average with the plug-in, and so I've enjoyed the Toyota. Toyota is always a very reliable brand, right? And so it was fine. I've worked at a couple places now that had the chargers, and to charge for free. Uh, so I always kind of was waiting for better software. You're sharing about the software, the prologue not getting updates.
Yep.
And it was the same thing with the Toyota. And so this being the Model Y now, I always kind of think back, it's kind of got that similar older Prius body style, and I like that hatchback. And so but the Prius, I mean, they had a new look on Prius a while back, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool looking and everything." And but I just think that the software was really holding the Toyota, the brand back. They could have easily been this same place as Tesla at any
Yeah.
point.
I think a lot of the car manufacturers could be in it. I see the Rivians out there, and I really want to drive one. There's nowhere close to me to drive a Rivian. I'd like to get behind the wheel one and see what those are like. And I know the Lyric is out there. Several other manufacturers have EV cars, but when you really think of it, it goes back to the original, right? The first EV, or at least the first really widely used one, was the Tesla. And so that's the only thing they do, right? They only do EVs, so they have no gas cars at
Right,
all.
yeah.
So,
I
s
mean, my second car we have is the Subaru, and I've always liked the AI, the self-driving, the lane keep assist. And so when I've always, like, thought, "Well, man," but when I experienced the Subaru kind of going around curves and keeping in the lane, and my Prius didn't have that, and it just has the beeping thing, "Oh, you're gonna cross the
yeah,
line."
yeah,
So I thought, "Well, gosh, if I could just get into an EV or use the self driving, we know these autonomous cars are out there. They've existed for a long time. My computer science background, and we always studied, that as there's competitions and stuff like that. So I've been really surprised this time around with how great the self driving is, and the charging, too. It's like,
Yeah, you've
not,
charged a lot at the supercharger, so, you've done that a lot more than I have.
yeah, just,
So,
yeah, to be able to just stop 20 minutes, get out, stretch your legs, get a coffee, big coffee fan, and the ease of not having to swipe my card. It's all in the app. And I love a good deal and a discount, and just, being able to like charge on off peak hours and kind of, oh, this is 25 cents, 30 cents. So that's been kind of neat that
yeah,
they've
I'm
out
excited
there.
for you to, share with the
Right.
listeners, your road trip experience a little bit later, because I think that's probably the most unique. I haven't taken any really big road trips, and you have, so I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that here in a few
Well,
minutes, but
and I was traveling down to Florida for my road trip, and I did get to a supercharger, and it was like packed.
oh,
There's a,
yeah.
right now one of the promotions was free supercharging if you got like a Model 3, I think, or
Yeah,
something
that
like
was for
that.
a year, you got
But
free
oh,
supercharging.
superchargers might be kind of getting a little bit busy, but
So would you say that's your
but
biggest frustration has been with the
I
chargers
think
and the
something around, yeah, with either waiting to get, you know, a supercharger, having to drive me to the next one up. Of course, the car drove me to the next one, and so I was just like, well, whichever, it's 10 minutes. All right, go. And I was there, and stuff. But and the kind of the slowness, once it goes under 100, you think, oh, now I'm sitting here for a little bit longer. But the enjoyment of the watching YouTube or something like that, the entertainment system takes any of those
Yeah, I
frustrations
mean, you have a
away
20-inch
quickly.
screen right in front of you, you can't really beat that.
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
So,
Nicer than the laptop we're using for the show.
yeah, it's great.
So,
Uh, yeah, so I mean, you've done a lot of just charging at home, right? Not a lot of the
yep,
supercharging. We had the Prologue, and you had something, you had your charger installed with a Prologue at
yes,
that point.
yes.
So tell me a little bit more about your charging experience.
Yeah, so I haven't used superchargers a ton. Most of my commutes to and from work, about a 15-mile commute each day. I'm fortunate enough to be able to charge at work, so, I got a level 2 charger at work, that I can plug into every day, and, I wanted the charger at home. Level 1s for most people, I've talked to some people who have level 1 chargers, and they're just fine. I think that's one of the myths with owning an EV that you have to you buy the EV, then you have to pay an electrician to come in and install this level 2 charger for you, and, how does that work? And now you have to your electric bill is gonna go way up and all these things. I didn't really experience much of that. Again, I am charging a lot at work, but just to give an example, in Ohio, we're a deregulated state, so we select our energy rates usually, and I have a pretty low one right now still for another month. So I'm only paying a total of about 18 cents a kilowatt hour. When you charge a supercharger, I mean, we charged last night and we
40,
paid 41
41, yeah.
cents. And so it's almost double the price to supercharge as opposed to charging at home on a level 1 or level 2 charger. And, the difference is you're going to use the same amount of electricity, right? Regardless of whether you're charging on a level 1 or a level 2. The main difference is just the speed of which you get your charge, right? So if you find yourself that you're driving to work and then you drive home, might run a few errands here and there, you're most likely going to be able to charge overnight with a level 1 charger, unless you have like an hour commute, 60-mile commute each way. And you're putting 120 miles on the car, then and I think you'd have to look at getting a level 2 just for the speed, but I find it fairly easy. One thing with Teslas, as opposed to the Prologues, the Teslas want you to be plugged in all the time. The Prologue didn't really advertise that. I hardly plug my Prologue in at home for that reason. Most of the charging was done at work, but my Tesla gets plugged in every night. I had to start learning how to back into the driveway, into the garage because the charger's in the back. The Prologue charged in front versus the back, so that's been a learning there. But I think as far as having a level 2 charger at home, if you can afford it and you have the space to do it, I think it's great. I would encourage it. You can get a lot of deals on them. I currently use an Emporia charger. which is the same brand that Honda would have installed had I had them install it for me. But there's a lot of good quality. You can get a charge point. You can get your manufacturer. I know Ford has one for those Mach-E's and the Lightnings. So you can, but almost every car will come with a level one charger. And they're fairly
Mhm.
cheap if not. I know you've used one in Florida or in West Virginia
Right.
at your grandma's house. You use a level one, and it
Mhm.
does the job. It gets it done. So on the flip side, Blake, you've taken a lot of road trips. I think you had 2 or 3 road trips in, your Tesla so far. So what
Yeah.
were they like planning
Sure.
charging and with the FSD? How was all
Well,
that?
I was really worried about that trip to West Virginia to see my family.
Yeah,
The infrastructure, it's sure along the interstates and stuff, you might be pretty good. And a little bit of the like bigger towns, but in my grandma's house, I was able to just use the was it mobile
the
charger, the
level 1,
level one that came with
yeah, the
my
mobile charger.
Tesla, and I did have to kind of back down the amperage. Am I saying that
Okay,
because it would be like
yep,
12, and I brought it down to 10,
yep, just to be
and
safe.
it's safe. It's the older infrastructure home. She's lived there a long time, so it was kind of. But I felt safe plugging it in, and it even like because the app's telling me, and it seems smart about being able to keep the house wiring safe and stuff like that. And so that worked out really good, just to make sure that I could drive around, go to the grocery store, do what I had to do, and then when I was ready to go to like uh, back home, I went to the supercharger on the way, and so it did work out. It was a nice peace of mind. And I don't charge at home. I charge
Mhm,
at work.
yep,
I charge on the road. I'm using the superchargers, and so when I traveled to my family in Florida, it was a bit the same. Uh, but it was like I just got the car and I wasn't really too sure about the mobile charging. So, and there is like really close by the house, the supercharger. So that was to my point of I would just, oh, it's 10 o'clock. Oh, it's off peak. Okay, I'm going to go drive over, and so that was into that
yeah,
being there. But getting there, I also didn't really mind that at all because the app, the navigation, the Tesla, I just put my destination and knows where the superchargers are at. And I didn't use any of the EV Go or the other ones
just the Tesla
for this
branded one.
one,
Yeah,
just the superchargers. And I found if sometimes you got a good deal, sometimes it was the 40 cents, like 20
yeah.
cents, something like that, with the off peak hours.
So were your
And
road trips overnight?
yeah, and that's how I got those off-peak
Okay.
hours is overnight, and so, I mean, I was probably a little sleepy and tired anyway, so I just, it's in the charger, like, the doors are locked, and it just lean the seats is comfortable, and everything, so just try to nod off and, put a little timer on my Apple Watch and go take a little siesta and be back at it, 20 minutes, and back on the road, it was fine. I mean, and too, I love to stop at McDonald's or wherever, so I just try to like plan around that or walk over and get my coffee and back at it. So
Yeah,
the self driving really makes it possible. The self driving is part of it as well to make it because the chargers can be like obscure in a parking lot of Myers or something like
yeah.
this. And like I would never know where this charger is at this gas station that's back over here off this, but the self driving, it just okay, that's what we're stopping at and makes the decisions like a lot easier. And so,
Yeah, so I will say coming from the Honda Link app to the, Tesla app, no comparison. Uh, planning your route out there, I'd have to sit in the car pretty much to do my, routing on the
oh, okay.
Honda, and I also used a Better Route Planning, I think is the
Oh,
name
that's
of
a good one.
the
That's funny
app.
you've been
That's a
telling me
good
that,
app.
and I really
Yeah.
like that. If I'm just sitting around and want to see, how much kilowatts it's going to take me to get here to there,
Yep.
I pull up
I
that
think that's kinda cool
better
too. They say but you can't.
better route planning app,
Yep.
ADP or
Yes, yes. I will put
PR.
a link down
Yeah,
below of this so you can
yeah,
download it,
check
try it
that
out.
out.
There's a free trial, small subscription. You don't need to use a subscription, but
Mhm.
if it does connect to your car, if you do, and saves you then having to do that, but it's not necessary. I think that was I shortly after I got my prologue, I took a trip to Cleveland, and there was some anxiety with figuring out where am I going to charge, what do I need to charge, how do I make sure I have enough once I'm in Cleveland to get around. So I think the Tesla app in the car and the mapping makes it very simple. You can set your destination charge, and it tells you if you need to charge or not. Like I growing home, we're in Wheeling, West Virginia. We were at our alma mater for alumni weekend, so we figured we'd do our first episode in person together. and I'll be driving home to Columbus tonight. And I like to get home like 30, 40%. So I put that in. I have to make like a 10-minute stop to charge on the way home. So it'll be pretty easy, 10 minutes in and out. I always tell people, when you go to get gas, especially on a road trip, you're going to go to the bathroom, you're going to get something to drink, you're going to get a snack. By the time you all do that, it's 15, 20 minutes.
Yep,
And so it's
sure.
really not much different than pumping gas, and it does cost. It is costly, 41 cents a kilowatt hour. So what would you say your average charge was?
I think it's at 30 cents now because the
Yeah.
back and forth
But I mean, your total
supercharged.
amount, like what were you paying for to do a charge? What do you say if you had to pick an
Oh,
average? I
well,
think mine's around
yeah.
$14, but I don't charge
Oh, you mean
that
for
much,
the
like the
like, when you
overall.
do, like, if you were gonna
Like,
pull up to the
compared to
pump,
filling up a gas
like,
tank,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And I'm the opposite thing because I was coming from the prime, so I was used to that 60
yeah,
miles, driving 400 plus on a tank, and so, yeah, I would think 20
about
is,
$20. So,
yeah,
kinda
so
comparable to a
you're
tank of
filling
gas.
up.
Well, not necessarily today
Alright.
gas prices, tank of gas, but, a couple
Yeah.
couple years ago, tank of gas. I think that's been something I've been kind of intrigued with lately too, is just seeing how many people are into buying an EV because gas prices are so high, right? And they find it as a way to save a little bit of money. But one of the things I wasn't expecting was insurance increases, right? Insurance rate.
Oh, actually, I have a better like, that would have to help me, so
Yeah,
it's either way, if shop around. I mean,
yeah, shop
we're
around.
longtime drivers
Yeah,
too, and so, yeah.
yeah. But I definitely would check if you're looking in the market. I would definitely check your insurance rate first because
Mhm.
I have read online a lot of people rates going up
I hope to
with
go
their
down
insurance.
though, because it's the safest car,
Yeah, it
like,
is
you
the
see
safest
that,
car.
so many miles driven without accidents and stuff, so I think they should be giving us some benefits.
That's kind well, Tesla insurance. I don't know if you saw. Not in my state. I don't think it's
Not in
in
my state
Missouri either.
either.
But if you use
Florida,
FSD, they will
yeah.
give you perfect driving score for all the miles you drove FSD and give you a pretty substantial discount on your insurance because of that. So you basically could offset the subscription with the discount on the insurance
Well,
and
like, one of the
whatnot.
new
So
updates was that streak feature.
yeah,
Now I'm addicted
you're
to
into
the
that.
streak, and, when I have to disengage, I'm like, "Ah," and it's not my fault,
Yeah,
and,
they're gamifying it a
so,
little bit.
yeah, they are. So what do you think about some of those other updates that might be coming? Or
Yeah. So we
you always
recently.
sold me on that it's going to pick me up or drop me off or
I
something
know, and
like
it isn't
that.
doing that.
And I mean, I tried that feature where it like gets me in the when it's raining out or something. I don't
The
know,
summons,
the
the
summon
yeah,
and stuff.
which is kinda
Like,
cool. I've done that a few times. It was raining, I had the car. You could summon the car to your location.
yeah,
I get nervous. I don't want it to hit another car or something. So if I can't
yeah.
see it, I don't wanna use it.
I tried it at work
Um,
one time, and it just, like, locked up and stuff. I'm like, "What is it doing?" It was kind of funny because I can almost, like, see the car. By the time the car got to me, I coulda went to the
yeah,
car,
exactly,
and so that's a bit of it.
exactly.
It's such a
And loading
small
groceries
diameter.
in the
Oh,
fire lane
yeah, that
is
was an
kind of
awkward
awkward.
time I was saying about that,
Yeah,
everything.
but, I mean, it is nice feature. I mean, I definitely see some benefits of it, and I think as they continue to enhance the software, I think, that will feature will be amazing. One of the frustrations I think I have with FSD is, it works great, parking's great, but it doesn't park where I want to park, right? And so, one of the things I'm excited about is in 14.3.4, which is starting to roll out this week to at least the early adopters, some of the influencers out there. But it's going to really, supposedly, I haven't seen this in practice. I haven't seen any videos yet, but from what I've read, it's supposed to allow you to pick your parking spot when you arrive and it's going to be pulling over as opposed to doing curbside. So it's not going to necessarily go to the door, but it will pull over once it gets in the parking lot. So you don't have to disengage your FSD, and you can drive to the parking spot that
Well,
you want to
it
drive
got me
to.
the other day. My setting was on parking versus charging
Hmm.
and the self-driving. I'm like, "Why am I going to a parking spot here?" And then it's, "Oh, I had to go in there and change it to
Yeah, you had told me that on the
charge."
way here because I
And
stopped to
that didn't
charge, and
tell
it took
you
me to a
that,
parking spot.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but then, yeah, when you're like, I would go to work and I actually want to pick like which charger I wanted to pull
yep.
into instead of, because it's not a supercharger, right? So, and it's just starting to, I'm like, well, if I could just hit on there, I want to park over here as it's pulling up, that would be kind of nice. So,
Yeah, I think that's exciting. There's a lot of talk about where is FSD going. Right now, it's supervised, which means you can't like you're not you
right.
can't really sleep in the
But
car.
robo taxis, I
But
mean, he's we're
They're coming
pushing for
out.
that.
Yep.
So
So I think once we get to unsupervised FSD, I think it's going to be even more powerful. Like, what are you going to do? Get in your back seat and let the car
how do
take
you
you to
got to
work,
put your belt
or
on, of course.
I don't know. It would be interesting to see how all that works. The other kind of neat thing that is at least rumored is being able to use your Tesla to join the Cybercab fleet. And so it's rumored that if you're
If
placed with
I would
every,
let
I don't think
people
I
in
would
my,
either.
because other people in my car,
Yeah,
and stuff, I did have to be pretty good perks,
yeah, but
Maybe
it's
I could
kind of
get
neat.
free self driving,
Yeah, kind of a neat option. I don't think I would do it either, but there are people out there that would. And it's kind of a
Yeah.
neat way to enhance the fleet and get the cars out on the road. So, like I said, I don't agree with you. I do agree with you, Blake. I don't think I
We
would
love our
ever.
Teslas,
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever
but
let my car
uh,
just go out and make money on its
uh,
own. I hate to see what that will do to the
if
insurance
you
rate.
would make sure you leave that in
Yeah.
comments. Let
Yeah.
us
Yeah. If
know
you would
the
do that, that's a good
perks.
question for you guys. Would you let your Tesla go out and serve as a taxi in the cyber cab fleet? I think that would be interesting to see what you guys think about that. So I'm kind of excited about this next little segment of our show. And I think it goes back to our obsession with Apple so much. We called it the Apple Pit Stop. So this is where we're going to talk about something Apple in each episode. So what are we going to talk about today, Blake?
Yeah. So where does the technology with transportation intersect with Apple and our love? We had the Apple Developer Conference a little bit ago, but this one today we're going to talk about CarPlay.
Yeah.
So CarPlay, do you miss it? I've had CarPlay not in the Toyota because it was a little bit older. Had it in the Subaru. You've had a little more experience about
Yeah,
CarPlay.
I've had
So
CarPlay for a
what
while.
do you think?
Uh,
You
yeah, I've
miss
had
it?
CarPlay probably since 2016.
Wow.
Use it exclusively in the cars. It's something I was worried about going to Tesla was what will I do without my CarPlay, because it became such a part of my day to day driving. And to be honest, I don't feel like I've missed a lot of CarPlay. I mean, the messaging was easy.
The
Messaging,
messaging now with the Tesla, it's at least you can see the
you
text
can see the message,
messages,
yes,
but you couldn't on CarPlay.
and get alerted
But
to it, which is good that you got one.
Apple Music, you use
Apple
music,
Music's in
right?
there. Yep. So Apple Music's
Part of
there. So
it.
that's not missing. And I've really liked Tesla navigation. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't. They have not liked the way it navigates you, or the way it routes you for your
Okay.
trips. But I've loved it. I live in
Yeah.
Columbus, Ohio, in a suburb of Columbus, and I think in my first week of ownership, I think I went home 4 different ways I'd even know existed, and literally cut off
Yeah.
10, 15 minutes of my trip in those routes. So I
And I
find
wasn't
it
ever a fan of Google Maps. What does Maps did you use in
Apple
CarPlay? You
Maps.
use the Apple
Yep.
Maps. So I would always do Apple Maps as well. That mapping gets me all frustrated and stuff. So
Yeah, a lot of people on the podcast though really like Waze. I never could get into
Waze,
Waze, but a lot of
okay.
people talk about Waze not being able to use that. The one thing that leads to
Big
the thing I
bump
miss
on
the
your
most.
drive.
The
Is what?
thing I miss the most about not having CarPlay is sharing location. So when you're going
Oh,
somewhere and you're able to share your location through Apple Maps, it lets you know, yeah, you can share an ETA. You can send a message saying my ETA is this. But what's nice with the sharing your location through the maps is if something happens, you're in traffic or you're going to be delayed, it notifies the person you're sharing it with.
okay.
So that's been probably my biggest
Shortcut. Did you use
frustration.
the shortcuts ever with Apple and the shortcuts?
Not on
Nothing like that.
CarPlay,
Okay,
but I have used
okay.
shortcuts with my Tesla, like open
Oh.
trunk
Oh,
and things
okay.
like
So
that,
that's
but
kind
not.
of like because our Apple Watch and all that
Yep.
still, the phone is still part of the experience.
So I would say,
Bluetooth,
I know there's a
but
lot of rumor, Blake, about CarPlay coming to Tesla. Apple and Tesla have worked on that. It's supposed to be coming sometime this year. We'll see. I don't want to go speculating what's going to come or not, but I think one of the things I was most intrigued with is, this is the Apple talk. The Apple was in looking at building their own EV or own autonomous vehicle up in point.
that's kind of how I've been here too. Because I
Yeah.
always thought, oh, I would love to get the Apple car.
Yep. Exactly. Right. And so I recently read David Pogue wrote a book about 50 years of Apple. And so it was like a history book of everything that's happened at Apple over the past 50 years. They celebrated their 50th anniversary on April 1st of this year. And in the book, it talks about the car project. And they were literally in the book, it says they were considering buying Tesla to advance their car
What? Oh
project.
my
Yeah.
god!
But they
I
weren't
heard
sure what to
about
do with
this.
Elon Musk. And so it came down, they didn't buy Tesla because they weren't sure what they would do with Elon Musk if they did. And then the project went on their own. And then at the end, they were considering buying Rivian or wrapping it up and just exiting the car business, and so that's what they did. They just packed it up and exited the business, and laid off a lot of those engineers. But I would have loved to have had an Apple car, but I think
Yeah,
Tesla's probably the closest to that Apple car we're ever going to get. Uh,
experience.
and I think that for me is the biggest is just the technology. It's like a computer on wheels, right?
Exactly. And they have that same experience. You know, you have the app and the interface, they just kind of all together, the whole service. I mean, even from the buying, you would the
Yeah.
simplicity of just all the buying stuff in the app
Yep.
and all the paperwork. And there's that Apple feel to it,
Shortest
which
amount
is
of time you ever spend in a car
oh
dealership, right?
yes. And in this day and age with the whole I like to know the price.
Yep.
I've never been one good at negotiating.
Yeah.
So when I know it's what it is,
And it's a pain,
right,
right? Like
right,
you go to the dealership, it's an all day ordeal because they have to go back and talk to their manager and then bring out a price. So then you got to haggle back
yeah.
and forth. Like, you
Yeah,
know what you're paying, you pay it, you move on, you
same
do
with
it in
my
the app.
iPhone. Exactly.
You know, if you
Everything
can
is so
afford it, great. If you can't find something you can't afford, and just the overall buying experience was pretty cool, pretty amazing there. And ordering tint for the windows was in the app. They warranty that as well. They offer you a month of free of the windshield protection, tire protection, and then it's only $16 a month after that, which I don't think's unreasonable
for
for that
windshield.
to.
I had a cracked windshield on my Prius for a long while, really, and I never wanted to do like an insurance claim or
Yep,
something like that. So I'm probably going to be renewing and keeping
yeah,
those
I did renew
insurance.
mine.
There's a lot of technology still, even with the windshield. There's the cameras up there,
Yep,
so
and it's a
you
big
want to,
windshield.
yeah, and you never know something soon. So
So, Blake, this has been
yeah,
fun for our first episode.
yeah.
Glad we were able to do this in person, but
And, we wanna build this out as a community. We wanna hear from you as the listeners,
yeah,
and so we don't have any questions from listeners at this point, but we would like to, hear from you, reach out on social, leave a comment, please even leave a review. Guys, it's getting going on, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. A review will mean a lot. Yeah, even if it's just
yep,
encouragement, a comment, something that you'd like to see in the podcast, so we really
yes,
appreciate
share it
that.
with others.
Send us your EV
Um,
questions for episode 2.
yeah, and we'd like to keep it in 20 minutes frame because a lot of commutes are 20-25 minutes. So that's we promise you to keep
Yeah.
it short.
We were
Get
even
you,
pulling it up in the Tesla,
yeah,
the Apple podcast app, so you can get us pulled up in
yep,
the
you can
Tesla.
find
Look for EV
at all the
Misfits
all
right in the
the
Apple podcast.
the place,
Is
but
Spotify no,
Spotify,
Spotify is
yep,
on there.
Spotify is
So I
on
didn't
there
check the
too.
Spotify
We didn't
part,
try that,
so,
and we'll have all the
yeah,
links for all those below. So do that,
please
and
yeah, on all the
just
socials, yep.
thanks for joining
Facebook,
us for
all
the
that.
first episode of EV Misfits. I'm Rob.
And I'm Blake. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other EV enthusiasts.
Until next time,
Stay plugged in.
and driven by curiosity.